Readings against fear. Some readings of my books, texts, articles about my opinion for exiting from this pandemic period. Not only to contrast fear of the lockdown, but also to produce the antidotes to the pandemic, and not only to the virus pandemic, but also to the climate change pandemic, to the inequality pandemic, to the widespread urbanization pandemic. Today, I'll read the first chapter of my book, Augmented City, A Paradigm Shift, published in 2017, dedicated to the 21st century, to the new paradigm of century. Contemporary cities, I wrote in the back, could be considered vibrant organism and place and community of data and information, of sensors and actuators, of action and reaction generated by people and environment both. This new kind of cities, or if you want, this recovered kind of cities, need a new paradigm. The paradigm that I called Augmented City. I begin to read for you. The Augmented City, Urbanism in the Neoanthropocene. By 2050, the world's urban population is expected to nearly double, making urbanization one of the 21st century's most transformative trends, and asking urbanism to give more innovative and effective solutions. Local population and migrants, social and cultural interactions, environmental impact, and economic activities are increasingly concentrated in cities. And this poses massive sustainability challenges in terms of reimagining how to plan and manage housing, infrastructures, basic services, food security, health, education, decent jobs, safety, and natural resource, among others. But, as affirmed in 2016 Quito Conference UN Habitat III, we are still far from adequately addressing these and other existing and emerging challenges. And the new urban agenda of the United Nations, edited in 2017, asked to take advantage of the opportunities presented by urbanism as an engine tool of sustainable and inclusive economic growth, social innovation, cultural development, environmental protection, and of its contribution to the achievement of creative, intelligent, safe, and resilient urban development. To fully harness the innovative and creative potential of cities, metropolitan or rural, dense or sprawled, traditional or new, we need an urban paradigm shift, grounded in integrated and indivisible dimensions of sustainable development, environmental, cultural, social, territorial, and economic. The future of urbanism as technical discipline and form of human habitat both needs a disruptive renewal of paradigms, a frantic whirlwind of experimentation, and a continuous review of ingrained habits. In last decades, the most conformist urbanism, with a few candid critics, was too busy pouring concrete, increasing greenhouse gases emissions, and consuming natural and cultural resources to develop more sensible, integrated, and proactive urban human strategies. But the times are changed because we live in the age of a deep metamorphosis, of paradigm, knowledge-based, of horizons, ecological-oriented, and of lifestyles, cooperation-led. After the Industrial Revolution, we have entered in the Anthropocene, the era of the massive human impacts on the planet, able to destabilize Earth's natural system with severe consequences on the human settlement. But in their recent book, Johan Rockström and Matthias Klum affirm that Anthropocene doesn't mean only an unsustainable human footprint on the earth, but they argue that we have unprecedented opportunities to navigate a good Anthropocene by embracing a deep mind shift, rediscovering common values, and taking on the essential role of planetary steward. In face of anti-urban tensions, we must shift towards a Neoanthropocene, where anthropos is the highest expression of human being, where a renewed ethics of political responsibility and a more sensible urbanism focus on being more creative in using natural and cultural resources, smarter in economy, open in governance, intelligent in transport, and resilient in living. Self-sufficiency, circularity, sharing, and recycling are the main keys. In contemporary society, cities could be considered vibrant organisms of space and community, of data and information, of sensors and actuators, of actions and reaction, of urban-rural metabolism generated by people and environment both. 5,000 years ago, the city was the best invention of the mankind, thought to be an enabling device for communities' evolution and innovation, not only a safe place or a symbolic one. During the millenary urban evolution, the enhancing role of the city was constantly supported by technology, mechanical first, hydraulic and steam later, electric more recently, and digital in the present age. The smart city revolution, starting as a disruptive and heretic innovation, it became an untouchable taboo, a buzzword in urban planning. Starting from first experiment promoted by technology enterprises, the smart city proposed that the technology can be harnessed by municipal administration to achieve unprecedented levels of monitoring, efficiency, security, convenience, and sustainability. But it isn't enough to insert the information technology in a traditional urban body to improve the intelligence of cities. And a closer look at several smart cities practices suggests that such a city will not serve and enhance the interests of the people who live in it. We need to lay a new groundwork for the far more fruitful alternatives to come, because the role of the city as human enhancement must be renewed and reinforced. In order to not lose the powerful vision of contemporary city as place enhancing collective intelligence of people, we need a paradigm shift able to produce an intellectual toolkit for those of us who want to take the challenge in rethinking the sterile and unappealing vision. in the post-city age and behind the smart city, against the anti-urban movement and inside the creative city, I want to propose the Augmented City, a spatial, cultural, social, economic platform for enhancing our contemporary life, individual and collective, informal and institutional, expanding the urban space generated by the effects of innovation. If we live and act in a reality permanently improved by hard and soft devices, our city must be more responsive to our behavioral changes. We will be able to build a more efficient urban environment, able to sense, to understand, and to act every day and for everyone. The augmented city is an emerging paradigm that perceives the demands of a society more networked and knowledge-based, that answers to the global change and new circular metabolism. Augmented city redefines dogmas of urbanism that we often thought of being more static and rule-based, recovering its prospective, incremental, responsive and creative approach. Augmented city acts simultaneously on cultural, social, environment and economic components to activate a human urban regeneration. The augmented city is a key enabling space for augmented people life. It's an enabling platform for human creativity, innovation and equality, and for territorial sustainability, economy and quality. In the augmented city, everyday data capturing device can monitor rainfall, pollution, water, energy, natural light or traffic, social needs and people life, and then process this information in real time, thus allowing for creating a seamless coordination and planning system and enabling the shared use and optimization of resources. But it's not just about central issue. Giving open and collective access to the information will allow people to be more creative, more in sync with the environment, and to make decisions accordingly. The current challenge in urban planning and design is only defining the place of encounter between the natural and the artificial, the best balance between urban and rural, agriculture and housing, production and consumption. In the next circular challenge, one way of breaking out the linear thought is to create an efficient interface between physical and cyber state. This will allow for the production management of resources to happen in the same place where raw material is, where production can be local, where energy consumption is near to the renewable resource production, where community behavior could be informed and empowered. From monitoring devices to aware information, from information to synchronization with the environment and nature, from respect for nature to urban metabolism. This is the stairway to heaven, from smart devices to living cities, from smart place to enabling city. In recent decades, bad urbanism was an inexorable and insensitive Dalek, the famous Doctor Who enemy, shouting continuously his mantra, regulate, regulate, regulate. Instead of sharing vision, realizing sustainable projects and producing stable quality, his weapons were public finance, land consumption, ground and real estate rent, and an unbreakable faith in technical rationality, instead of a public-private partnership, recycling of resources, an empathic approach to community needs. We need to rescue the original meaning of urbanism as quality and welfare producer, its projected dimension and its collective value to improve sense of civic duty and belonging to places. The city is the best place where the ideas have sex. The city has been the best place to live because allowing a community life that build fruitful relationships, generate fertile synapses, producing new economics and accelerating innovation. In his History of Innovation, Stephen Johnson in 2010 draws on 7 centuries of scientific and technological progress to show what sorts of environment nurture innovation and creativity. He finds that great creativity milieu, whether Los Alamos labs during the Second World War, Warhol's factory in New York during the 60s, and MIT in Boston today, or Rome in classical age, Florence in Renaissance, and New York City or Tokyo today, or the web and the social networks, are like coral reefs, theming of diverse colonies of creators who interact with and influence one another. Cooperation in nature is just as important as competition. That's the secret of the coral reef. Everything is recycled in a limited space on a matrix of calcium carbonate built up by the coral, the ultimate example of bootstrapping, a self-sustaining process able to proceed without external input. The key to both natural and technological evolution is bricolage, recycling parts, taking object from one context and placing it in another. The most creative environment are those that create a platform for innovation, allowing the greatest number of spare parts adds on, resources to recycle, raw materials to remake. This is what, argued Johnson, unites the coral reef, the Italian cities of the Renaissance, the paradigmatic creative cities, and internet. All are fertile environments that have enabled a myriad innovation. And the city is the best place where this innovation could find necessary, tangible, intangible resources, as long as it is able to recover his propensity for creativity and collective intelligence. Cities as powerful creative habitats are platforms to open doors to the adjacent possible, said Johnson. And each new urban innovation opens up new ideas to explore. So, what is it that leads to innovation, nature, technology, or cities? It's the sharing of ideas and building upon them. Matt Ridley, in 2010, describes it as ideas having sex, arguing that socio-economic growth comes from the collision of information and new ideas, shared openly. The secret of the modern world is its gigantic interconnectedness. Ideas are having sex with other ideas from all over the planet, with ever-increasing promiscuity. The telephone had sex with the computer and spawned the internet, says Ridley. If innovation happens when people keep building on what's been done before, then I like to affirm that the augmented city is the best place where ideas have sex. It has to be planned and created to facilitate the fertile collision of ideas and people, of identity and innovation. In 2013, TED conference argued that, at its best, contemporary City 2.0 is hub of human connection, fountain of creativity and exemplar of green living. Yet, at the same time, it still suffers the symptom of late industrial urbanization, pollution, crowding, crime, social fragmentation, and dehumanization. Cities were born and have resisted all alternative proposals and the storms of post-urban, becoming the prevalent form of human settlement due to their ability to continually create a platform for innovation, hollowing the greatest number of spare parts, offering recyclable materials with which to build new relationships, or semi-finished plays on which to complete the process of metamorphosis. Metamorphosis is the new powerful keyword of the future cities, and we must accept the challenge to perform it during these transition years. Metamorphosis asks cities are subjected to a perturbation of their tangible and intangible components, acting local and connecting reticular. This disruptive action on cities could reshape their space, would reactivate their metabolism, switch on again their generative power, and reboot their innovative propulsion. The Augmented City Circle. To improve the weapons of the good urbanism, we must identify the main components able to reset the urbanism and spatial planning for reimagining the augmented city in face of the millennium challenges, through antidotes against the Dalek-like urbanism. In front of the deep changes that involve the cities in the Neoanthropocene and the new questions that emerge from the urban communities increasingly responsible and active, need new answers in a position to act in the metamorphosis we are going through. And the augmented city is the paradigm needed to meet the diverse and multi-scale questions that come from their four main challenges of the city in the 21st century: the impact of the knowledge society and the expansion of network communities, the answer to climate change, and the circularity of the urban metabolism. To understand how an augmented city is a new paradigm capable of responding to the new demands, opportunity, and needs of the metamorphosis we are going through, I developed a conceptual diagram, the Augmented City Circle, who orders the components and the respective dimension on which acts inside of the main issues that the urban planning and design have to face in the changing times. The Augmented City Circle collects and defines the 10 main components, focused in the following pages. 10 challenges to overcome for augmenting the innovative and creative power of the city as enabling platform, generative environment, and knowledge server for communities. The Augmented City is a vision process project able to respond to four major challenges of the 21st century. The four axes of the Cartesian diagram. The responsive city as a place that can meet the needs of the community in an effective and timely way. The sustainable development as an horizon for the quality of human settlement. The smart land as a responsible use of innovation and information technology, and the new spatial patterns essential to reshape not erosive form of human settlement. The axis delimits then the four quadrants which define as many goals of human development: the affirmation of the knowledge society and the expansion of the network society, the risks of global change, and the self-sustainability of the urban metabolism. Within this logical scheme acts the augmented city circle through its 10 characteristics, each of which produce a specific response in one of the main dimensions of development: knowledge, sharing, innovation, economical, cultural, circular, environmental, connective, metropolitan, and incremental. Each of the augmented city features is placed in quadrants and plays a predominant role in the response to the challenges placed along the axis. For each feature, finally, it is called the prevailing dimension within which it acts, and are synthesized three main spatial, economic, social, or cultural devices tools able to identify concrete action on the realm of cities and territories. The details and the emerging practices of that 10 characteristics of augmented city will be detailed in the respective chapter of this book. First, an augmented city is sentient because it uses a wide range of sources for acting by a knowledge dimension to answer several people's questions and to solve several problems. So, it needs new values, skills, and tools for renewing a knowledge-based and solving-oriented urbanism in a well-timed collaborative scenario. And it's thus also based on open source approach because needs for a civic tech urban structural alliance in the sharing society we live, able to generate new public collaborative space. The city is no more a pre-compiled code of spaces and functions, but it's a collaborative and incremental process of meeting, place and housing, social infrastructure and place of co-work. And then it triggers a renewed community covenant that reactivates the constituent factors of urban life. In the innovation dimension, the augmented city is intelligent, more ingenious than smart, because it can generate an enabling ecosystem based on the hardware of better urban spaces, on the software of the active citizenship, but overall on an urban operative system for an advanced and responsive city planning and design. The fourth keyword is productive, because next city need to reactivate their economic dimension, framing the powerful makers movement within the creative productive urban ecosystem for improving the manufacturing renaissance of the city based on the new artisan economy, according to Anderson in 2012, for reconstituting an essential economy base of the city after years of euphoria for city as service provider only. But the city will also be more and more creative, improving the cultural dimension through the integrated use of cultural communication and cooperation, the 3C of the next generation of creative city. Has resources for an active city that can generate new forms and patterns, able to stimulate the human creativity and able to stimulate a different growth based on identity, quality, and reputation. An augmented city is recyclable because it's based on recycling process and led by circular principles. It asks for a paradigm shift for transition cities that not only reduce, reuse, recycle their tangible and intangible resources, but design a new circular metabolism by including planned recycling among the components of the urban project. In the ecological dimension, it is resilient. That means accepting the task for adaptive, circular, and self-sufficient cities for winning the climate change challenge, producing and distributing effectively the resilience dividend, according to Judith Rodin, 2014, as effective instrument of urban ecological equalization. The augmented city is fluid because asks to rethink porosity and fluidity as projective paradigms in the connective dimension for urban regeneration projects that derive by water their charge of identity, producing new spatial configuration from renewing interface per city, not as a place threshold but as a producer of a powerful urban identity. In the metropolitan dimension, the reticularity defines the process from a traditional ecosystem and gravitational model to a new and more effective reticular one, based on metropolitan superorganisms and urban archipelagos. Last but not least, an augmented city needs a new implementation approach, an adequate process for allowing to transform ideas into action, for focusing several actions into a holistic vision. It needs a new alliance between public, private, civil society and asks for innovative path to implementation. So, augmented city must be strategic, asking for an incremental dimension, an adaptive approach and a time-oriented action, able to activate several cycles to regenerate districts, cities and lands. To meet these new challenges, I have developed an innovative protocol for urban regeneration, which I call city forming, based on a system of incremental colonizing tactics, open source consolidating actions, and development strategies, preferring an approach by a relational incremental master program rather than a rational comprehensive master plan. These keywords I have defined as many conceptual diagrams that summarize and make it immediately understandable the concept they represent. The 10 components of the augmented city will define a rich cloud of meanings, tools, and good practices of cities that improve their material and immaterial resources and strengthen their collaborative space, linking them with the networked communities. Cities that sense and act by its wide and deep network of human sensors and civic actuators, of technological devices and smart citizens, of creative actors and productive players. An augmented city must be a disruptive and reconstructive innovation in urban design, spatial planning and land management, and in everyday life also. We could sketch 7 steps for improving our urban agenda for augmented cities and communities made of policies and their spatial consequences. First, realize a creative ecosystem connecting talents, education and training starting from the interfacing schools, universities, cultural centers and enterprises so that they become creative hubs and incubators of ideas, projects and innovative jobs, strengthening the institution-community cooperation between augmented people. Second, make administration and services easily accessible to anyone at any time and from any place by accessing at their space and data, both to increase the openness, the knowledge sharing, and the cooperation to decision. Third, increase and diffuse sensors and actuators for problem monitoring and solving, capable of understanding in real-time needs, demands, and criticisms, and allow for a proper and timely solution in a sentient and active city. Fourth, plan public spaces and services for different uses and for different users over the day to minimize the cost of management, to maximize efficiency, and to ensure the maintenance of a hyper-sharing city that lies of several human urban metabolisms. Fifth, channel the energy of active citizenship to the collaborative management of new urban facilities. Theaters, museums, libraries, public space and welfare services need a public-private and civil society common management for empowering and spreading the civic dimension of the augmented city. Sixth, facilitate public-private partnership for the implementation of measures of energy efficiency, sustainable mobility, building security, and environmental quality, enhancing the fundamental entrepreneurial dimension for enforcing the urban circular economy. Seventh, facilitate the growth of the neighbor level of micro-production, digital fabrication, repair and recycling as new job opportunity, making city manufacture based and production oriented again, after the fourth myth of the city based exclusively on services. These 7 points of an urban agenda for augmented city and communities make up the perimeter for political and planning action, for business and social activities, for economy and cultural life, able to reshape the city through a renewed paradigm for urbanism. Augmented city is not just a new definition, but it needs the paradigm shift that I propose. It needs to collect several existing empirical evidence, traces of practices or real experiments. But above all, it needs the continued testing of spatial, social, cultural, and economic consequences of urban planning and design, enabling the collective intelligence of its inhabitants. In the following page are presented some ongoing experiments where I have detected traces of innovation, sparkles of creativity, seeds of change. This book analyzes, critiques, and interprets several places worldwide where institutions, urbanists, activists, communities, and enterprises are testing the first forms of the arising augmented city paradigm. The result is a theoretical and methodological contribute based on a conceptual atlas of territories and cities, seen as an enabling platform that augmented creativity, productivity, and well-being of the community involved, while also augment the resilience and intelligence of place. Augmented City is explored through its 10 components in as many chapters that delve into the spatial, cultural, social, and economic consequences. Each chapter is introduced by a diagram that summarizes the issue by acting as a conceptual map for understanding the meaning of the urban paradigm shift. The 10 components of the augmented city are declined and dipped through scientific reflection and empirical evidence that argue the soundness of the proposed paradigm. Each chapter concludes with a brief review of practices, emblematic cases or epiphenomena, grounding the concept. The augmented city arose about 7 years ago, but it grows with exponential progression, doubling its component, connection and impacts, seeing in last year to one incredible and disruptive acceleration. Each quarter, the component of the augmented city circle have doubled the previous one, and now we are surrounded by millions of practices in spread of sensors and intelligent devices, in collaborative design and return of urban manufacturing, in explosion of creativity and increase of resilience. Several experiments in recycling of everything, fluidification and networking of cities, and adoption of incremental and adaptive strategies as described in this book. As the famous Indian Emperor Gupta, we are at the crucial point of having to manage the second half of the chessboard in the innovations progression, not to succumb to the explosion of practices. So, we need a theory, a new urban paradigm able to understand, connect and manage the role of cities and communities in the augmented Neoanthropocene. What's the post-city? It's the city, augmented.